And I guess it's getting pretty late in the evening.
Yes.
Anything else I've missed?
I don't believe so.
All right. So tell us where y'all ended up before you started the game of hide and seek.
We were there. I couldn't think of anything else possibly that I had to continue entertainment. But I remember sitting at the end of the couch and him sitting in one of my son's chairs that was in the living room and just kind of doing this. Like, what are we going to do now? Like, I very much would like to go to sleep.
Had y'all finished off that bottle that he had bought?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Bless you.
Would it be fair to say that as the day wore on, the more y'all consumed?
Yes.
All right. And would it be fair to say that as the day wore on, the more you consumed, the more effects you felt from the alcohol?
Of course, yes.
Both of you?
Yes.
Okay. So you would agree, would you not, that at the time y'all were trying to figure out something to do and you put your head down on the couch, that would it be fair to say that y'all were intoxicated?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened.
At one point, I guess he knew that I couldn't come up with anything else, tapped me on my knee and said, "You're it." So from there, I ran up the stairs and hid into our shower, just waiting for him to find me so we could hopefully go to sleep soon at some point. And
Your shower, is it a tub or just a walk-in?
it's a tub, but it's in the master bedroom, and you have to go all the way upstairs, you have to go in the bedroom, and then you have to go into the bathroom part, and then there's the shower part.
So did you lay down in the tub?
At one point, yes, I was.
Okay. So you were hiding?
I was trying.
Okay. And did you believe that he was going to come try to find you?
Yes.
Did you wait?
Yes, for quite some time.
All right. Then what did you decide to do?
That I decided that I need to go to sleep. I'm picking my son up the next day, and we need to start wrapping up the evening. And I went downstairs to find where he was.
And what I think the jury has seen pictures of your, would you call it an apartment or
It's considered a townhome.
a townhome? So you walk down the stairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom of the stairs is a bookshelf here?
Yes, at the very end of it, yes.
Okay. So you walk down the stairs and you turn and look in the living room. What did you see?
I don't even think I made it all the way down the stairwell because I was just looking for him as soon as I could to hopefully go upstairs as soon as we could. And I looked over and I saw him settling himself in the suitcase.
All right. Tell us about the suitcase. How long, is it an older suitcase?
Yes.
Whose suitcase was it?
This is George's suitcase.
All right. And did he use it for traveling back and forth to Philly?
Yes. I had recently taken him on a trip to go see his children in Pennsylvania, who he hasn't seen in years, and we took that with us. And because of how dilapidated it was, how broken it was, in the end, after that trip, we decided that we would donate it.
All right. And I understand y'all kept the suitcase upstairs.
Yes.
How long did y'all keep it upstairs?
Since we had moved in.
All right. Is there a closet up there you kept it in?
Yes, it was in the master closet, the master bedroom closet, all the way in the back because of the size of it, and there was nowhere to put it, so it's all the way in the back.
So when did y'all decide to move it down from upstairs to downstairs? Was it that day or sometime earlier?
No, it was maybe a week or so prior.
Okay. And so what, y'all were going to donate that to Goodwill, or?
Yes, we were going to do, I guess, a spring cleaning. Anyone who has children understands that they grow quickly, and there was a lot of clothes that I needed to go through of my sons, and then also from George and I moving in and just kind of putting everything in there, at one point where we just needed to actually go through it and organize it and get things more in order.
So is that the reason it was downstairs? You were going to donate it and a bunch of things that you're going to put inside of it?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So it had been down there a week, so it was already down there?
Yes, George brought it down.
Okay. So you said that you got down there, you're looking for him, you see him settling into the suitcase.
Yes.
What did you do?
In my head, I said, oh man, we're obviously not going to be going to sleep anytime soon. And I walked over, and he was trying to get himself flat, so I couldn't tell that he was in there. And then
Now, let me stop you there. The suitcase, is it the suitcase over here in the
yes,
box? You've seen it, you saw it.
yes,
It's a pretty big suitcase.
yes.
How big is George?
George was my height. And
How tall are you?
I'm 5'3".
Okay. And how much did George weigh?
I thought it was 100 pounds.
Okay. And how much did you weigh?
I was 98 pounds.
All right. Do you agree you put on some weight?
Since I've been incarcerated, yes.
Well, at the time, though, y'all were pretty skinny.
Yes.
So from the pictures, it looks like y'all were both pretty thin.
Yes.
All right. So because of his thinness, is that how? And he's a small man.
Yes.
Okay. So he was able to get in the suitcase on his own.
Yes.
Did he willingly get in the suitcase?
He was already in there.
Okay. When you got to him, did he see you?
Yes.
All right. Tell us what happened.
I mean, I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was, I guess, small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
All right. So what happened then?
From there, it was just, we were laughing about it, and it was just strange that he was small enough to fit in there, and then I kind of moved it around a little bit with him in the suitcase still. It was still funny that he was still in the suitcase. Just, I think he and I were just kind of couldn't believe that he could fit in the suitcase.
Did you eventually close the top?
Yes, the top was already closed. As he was settling himself in there, that's how I knew he was in there, was because the top was kind of flopping a little bit.
Okay. So he had gotten in there to hide, and he pulled the top
Yes,
on top of it. But you could tell he was in there.
yes,
You saw him right away.
yes,
All right. So at some point, did you zip him up?
yes.
Did you? And what was he saying or doing when you were zipping him up?
We just thought it was funny.
Were you both laughing?
Yes,
And so you zipped him up. Were y'all still laughing once you zipped him up?
yes.
Okay. Tell the jury what happened then.
From there, I moved the suitcase around a couple of times, just kind of on the wheels, and moved it around. And at that point, it was funny. We were joking and laughing about it.
All right, now, eventually, did you go sit down on the couch and get your phone?
Yes.
Did I miss something?
Well, the suitcase had, for me moving it around, was flopped over. So while it was like that, I thought at that point I had a moment to, I guess, take the time to talk to him while I guess he was not able to get out for a moment.
So you flipped it. You got it on the top, right?
Yeah.
It gets in, but at some point you flip it over so the zipper is on the bottom.
Well, it was just kind of how I was moving it around that it ended up kind of flopping. So
It was upside down.
yes,
So after you did that, what did you do?
that's when I went over and decided to videotape to just see the, I guess the gist in it for him to understand that right now I feel safe, and right now I have the ability to actually speak to you in a manner that normally I would not have the ability to do.
And you were intoxicated,
Yes.
and you would agree that you said some things you should not have.
Yes.
Right? But you realized he could not get out and get at you. Is that fair?
At that moment, yes.
So it goes on for about 10 minutes.
Yes.
You heard it here today, did you not?
Yes.
You heard his voice as he was speaking from the suitcase.
Yes.
That was his voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
And you heard your voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
That was your voice.
Yes.
All those things said by the man were said by George in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
All the words said by the female were said by you in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
Were you intending on showing him the video the next day?
Yes.
At the time, or the next day, is it fair to say you don't even remember a videotape?
I do not.
So, from what you can tell from watching it, did that refresh your memory about that event?
It did.
Why did you say all that?
Mr. Owens, you may proceed.
All right, I'm talking about just the 2-minute video part that was recorded. Could you just tell the jury what you were feeling, what your feelings were at the time, and then explain that to the jury? You mentioned, you talked about it before. You said he was in that confined space and it was my chance, but do you want to elaborate on that, or?
Sure. I want you all to know that the majority of the time, am always afraid and always scared.
All right, well, I understand that. Okay, I understand that. But would it be fair to say that you had some anger at that point?
I did.
Would it be fair to say that you wanted to tell him off to some degree?
I just wanted, yes, for him to have a better understanding, which was the whole point of the videos and documentation prior.
And you could tell that he was uncomfortable.
I'm guessing.
And did you want him to feel some uncomfort?
I did.
Okay. Now, at some point, you turned off the video.
Yes.
And then we saw a second video, which is approximately 11 minutes later. And you've seen that video. It was played to the jury. It was 22 seconds long.
Yes.
And I don't think you speak in that video. You hear George say Sarah one time.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So between the 2-minute video and the 22-second video is an 11-minute period. Would you tell the jury what happened?
We continued to, I guess, speak to one another, and his tone changed, and I knew the tone, and we ended up, I guess, arguing back and forth with one another, and it was the things that he was saying very much frightened me, and cursing at me and threatening me. And
Did he want you to let him out of the suitcase?
I'm sure so.
Okay. Go ahead, tell the jury.
And it just got very heated very quickly, and he continued to push on the suitcase. And my fear was that he was going to break out of the suitcase, knowing that it was a broken suitcase. And his hand started to come through. His hand started to come through this way. And so I shook the suitcase. Trying to get his hand to go back in, shaking it, and telling him that, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this to me. Please stop doing this to me.
So his hand actually got out of the suitcase,
Yes.
and you went to the suitcase
Yes.
and shook it.
Yes.
Did that force his hand to go back in?
No.
So you're shaking it. Were you shaking it to try to get the suitcase, his hand back in?
Yes.
How long did you shake it?
I don't know.
But his hand was still out.
Yes.
Was he trying to get out?
Forcefully, yes.
Was he angry at you?
Yes.
Were you in fear?
Always.
If he would have gotten out of the suitcase, what would he have done to you?
Like he used to tell me, he probably would have made me unrecognizable, or I would have lost my life.
Did you lose the grip on the suitcase?
Yes.
Where was the bat in relation to the suitcase?
It was leaning up against the dining room table, right there.
How far was the bat from the suitcase?
3 feet, 2 feet.
Was his hand still out of the suitcase?
Yes.
And was he getting out of the suitcase?
He very much was trying, yes.
And so what did you do?
For the split-second reaction that I had, I happened to see that, and I grabbed the baseball bat and was trying to poke his hand to go back in, to please don't break through, please. So I hit his hand.
Did you hit the outside part of his hand?
Yes.
We've seen the photographs of his left hand. Did you cause the bruising there?
I'm guessing yes.
Now, you've seen the bat. It's a youth bat.
Yes, I bought it for my son.
Is this the bat you used?
Yes.
And you said you poked him with it?
Yes, I kind of pushed, like I held it with the skinny part here, and then
So the grip here,
prodded at it, yes.
you grabbed it with both hands here,
Yes,
and then the barrel of the bat, the big part of the bat is here.
correct.
And you thrusted it into the different areas of the suitcase?
I started with his hand, and his hand, he was still trying to get out. He was still trying to do that. So I started to push on the suitcase around it, hoping to have his hand retract and go back inside.
You made those injuries.
I did,
We've seen the photographs.
yes,
We see the bruising. Is that from that bat?
yes.
Eventually, did his hand go back inside from you doing?
Yes, finally, he had subsided and retracted his hand.
So in your mind, did you prevent him from attacking you?
Absolutely. Split-second decision.
Now, once he retracted his hand, do you remember zipping it up some, or what did you do in relation? Because he was upside down, was he not, at that point?
Yes,
At some point, you flipped him back up.
I did.
Tell how that happened.
He wasn't cursing, he wasn't threatening, his hand was inside foremost. There was no more of him trying to break through the suitcase. So I felt safe enough to turn it back over. It wasn't happening anymore.
You went back to the video and the couch,
I did, yes.
and we saw the second video,
Yes,
the 22-second, and he's right side up again,
yes,
and you hear him say, Sarah?
yes.
Had you left enough room for him to get out? Zipper to zipper.
Yes, that's how his hand was trying.
That suitcase has two zippers, doesn't it? And they meet at various places along the line?
Correct.
How much room, when you flipped it over, how much room was between zipper to zipper?
I don't know specifically. I mean, it was enough to where his hand was coming out.
After you had hit him with the bat, was he not trying to get out anymore?
No.
Did you believe that he could breathe in there?
Yes.
Did you ever believe he could die in there?
No. At all.
Were you trying to kill him?
Never.
Did you want to kill him?
I did not.
Did you walk upstairs?
I did, yes.
Why didn't you let him out before you walked upstairs? Were you afraid?
Terrified is more of the word.
As long as he was in the suitcase, he couldn't harm you.
Correct.
When he's... Did you want him to calm down?
Yes, I wanted him to stop being angry because I know what it is for him to be angry.
You went upstairs. Where were the dogs?
The dogs ran upstairs with me.
And where did they go?
On the bed.
Did you have the phone with you?
Yes,
I know at some point you called your husband Brian, did you not?
I did.
Do you recall how long that conversation was?
Not very long.
Can you recall what was said?
I don't remember exactly. No, I don't.
One moment. Miss Boone, Sarah Boone, you said that when he was in the suitcase, he was threatening you. Can you tell the jury what he was saying?
I don't know. Am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
that he was going to fucking end me. And that's what made me ask him please to stop doing what he's doing to me, that he was going to, I'm guessing, try his best that night to probably take my life.
But what, the threat you heard was he's
going to
say the word.
fucking end me.
Excuse me?
Fucking end me.
End you?
Yes.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Judge, can we approach the bench?
Yes. All right, members of the jury, it is 2:14. I have a matter that I have to discuss with counsel at this point in time outside of your presence. So I'm going to ask you to retire to the deliberation room. We'll bring you back in as promptly as possible. Again, similar instruction that I've given you. Please do not conduct any independent investigation or research as the person, places, things, or charge involved, and do not have any discussions amongst yourselves or anyone else about those things. We'll bring you back in as promptly as possible. Thank you.
Jury exiting. Next is a video starting with 3BB0C. Metadata shows date modified 12/29, 12:36 p.m. of 2019.
Yeah. So you remember this. So you remember this. Are you drunk right now?
No, man.
How much alcohol did you drink?
Enough to be drunk.
You're slurring your words. You're sleeping up against the door right now.
Yeah, because I want to be next to you.
Did I not tell you to not bother me?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is it you come up and do? What time is it right now? It's 1:20 a.m.
Okay. I haven't bothered you since then. I just go to sleep.
But didn't I tell you before at 9:30 to not bother me at all?
Yes.
Because why?
You have to move too long.
Nope. Because I've been up since 4 a.m. since yesterday when you fucked with me.
Yes, ma'am.
I know how much vodka was in that bottle. And what's the bottle now?
Kind of to throw it out.
What does that mean?
One more drink.
The bottle's empty. I know how much vodka was in there. Enough for two people to have a really good time. And who drank it? I want it to be documented that I'm leaving you, which means that you're getting out.
Leaving me.
You're getting out.
What about?
You're getting out.
Nobody's leaving nobody. Stop.
And the reason why you were even downstairs and weak enough to get drunk was because you don't give a shit about me. You don't listen to what I say. Special things that I keep on my front page of my phone so I remember to tell you about it because of how special and fun it is. I always bother you. I always bore you. You don't listen to me. Yesterday was my first day of work, remember? And I ended up 90% hearing about your day and 10% about mine.
You don't bother me or anything with that. So, I mean, sometimes you just you overwhelm me. That's the problem. You overwhelm me.
By telling you about my first day of work?
No, dude, you just overwhelm me about every other thing too. It's not just, first day of work.
So I'm overwhelming you by telling you about the fourth highest paid baseball player. That's a client of ours.
I'm not starstruck.
I don't even know who the guy is.
I don't need.
So the reason why, so you fully admit now that you didn't care and you did brush me off in the car. Midway sentence. Because you're not into baseball.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying.
I want to go to sleep. Go downstairs.
Yeah. I know.
I'm leaving you. And I'm going to try and cancel plane tickets.
No.
Because I don't do special things for people like you that are doing this. Like, to me, after I asked you at 1:21 in the morning,
I'm not doing it.
I wanted to be asleep. I wanted to stay asleep, which is why I got into bed at 8:30.
I know, I'm not doing it.
I told you not to step foot in the bedroom. So what do? Nonetheless, you're drunk. The amount of alcohol, I know how much was alcohol. I know how much was in there.
I am not drunk.
That's why I could smell you in the bed before you actually got me up. I can smell you from here. You're despicable.
How am I despicable? I'm not even doing anything.
Leave me alone.
Okay?
You're not going to remember shit. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not doing nothing right now.
Get away from me. Get away from me.
I'm not doing nothing to you.
You do everything to me all the time. All the time. Heartache and pain is what you cause me. Heartache and pain.
How is that?
Keep going. And I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. You get on your fucking little bike and go to fucking work tomorrow. Don't look at me. Don't come close to me. Don't touch me. Do you understand?
What do you mean?
As of this moment, and until I can get you out,
Get the fuck out of here.
I dare you. Yep, look at it. Look, get away from me. Get away from me. Get away from me. I'm gonna scream bloody murder. I'm gonna scream bloody murder. I will scream bloody murder. Get away from me.
Dude, nobody's doing anything.
I'm gonna fucking hurt you.
Nobody's doing anything. And you're filming it.
Let me go.
Nobody's doing anything.
I'm asking you, George, to get away from me. Please get away from me. Get away from me.
Yeah, I am. That was your function, dude. Malfunction. No, your malfunction is you, dude.
Okay, whatever you say. Whatever you say. Holy shit, the whole hallway just reeks of you up here. First it's shit, now it's alcohol. Don't step foot in this bedroom. I can't even breathe. Like, it's disgusting. Like, it's disgusting.
show me when the fucking money. Good night, Sarah. Love you.
I don't love you. I don't like you. I don't want to be with you.
Next video starts 456. That's the only file that starts with that. Date modified metadata 12/29/2019, 4:04 p.m.
And I'm not gonna have no Hindenburg situation, no Titanic situation, okay? So it's gonna be a good day. Yes, I'm missing my mustache right now. And later on, everything's gonna go off. Truth. Facts. Truth and facts. All of this is going to be missing later on. We'll take another video again later on when it happens. Love y'all, whoever watches this video.
No, that's not approved.
The FDA says it's approved.
So it's going to be a good day all day.
Yes, it is. Even when I
All day.
shave all of this
All
off.
day.
Yes. Even when I shave all of this off.
All day.
It's going to be an amazing day.
It's what time right now?
Shaboing
I'm
boing.
going to say 9:30. 7 o'clock maybe.
Shaboing boing. That's what we're doing later on. Shaboing boing. You can stop filming now.
It's not good enough.
It's gonna be a great day. Today's a great day to have a great day. Boom. Cut! Somebody come in with the, can somebody come in with the, can you not?
Next file is image_093.mov. Metadata date modified 1/3/2020, 2:48 p.m.
It's 6:13 and I asked him not to play music. Because I told him that I was going to go to shit.
Next file is img_0975.mov. Metadata shows date modified January 19th, 2020, 2:58 p.m.
Time. Sirens, 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 sirens. Sirens and sirens and sirens. And this cop car.
How about you get an umbrella and call me Camille underneath it?
Yeah, how about we forget about that? No, we won't.
I'll
forget
never
about
be.
it. No. How about we keep going on? Okay, how about this? When beautiful Lucas is here, we don't listen to none of that. I don't want to hear sirens. It's just beep, 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 all that, whatever. I want to listen to that. It's every single day. Beeping and we hear enough of it out here in reality.
Are you going to be nice tonight?
Yes. Yes. promise you, I used to just
Go for a walk.
by myself.
Yes.
No.
Go for a walk.
No, I'm just gonna chill out. If that's the case, I'll just chill out. So much, like, this.
Don't ever be a woman.
How can I be a woman?
Don't ever.
I can't. But I can, somewhat understand.
Don't ever.
I can somewhat understand. Somewhat understand. I can somewhat understand, yes, where you're coming from. But when you have a child and it's like right now, this is too much. But we had a blast with them. Amazing.
Then you got out of sorts and pushed me, and he stole my phone and called Graham.
got out of sorts. Why is it that I got out of sorts?
You pushed me.
I pushed you. I didn't push you. How do I get out of sorts all of a sudden? I don't want to hear it.
You drink too much, and you're upset.
Drink too much.
Go get your fuck card shaped.
What are you talking about?
Your retard paper. Don't hit women.
Have I hit you? No. So where are you going with this?
I'm turning this off.
Tell me whatever else you have off. Okay. You can film me, take a picture of whatever you want.
You can tell you're automatically
I'm
drunk.
not doing.
Do I ever get a buzz? No, I don't.
I'm not doing anything to you.
No, I
Sarah.
never do.
I'm not doing anything to you, Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Sarita. I'm not doing anything to you.
Yet.
It's not a yet. I will not.
This is the front door to the residence.
Stage 5.
This is also the front door of the residence, just a closer image to the door.
When you enter the residence, what is the first area just off to the right of the front door?
That would be the kitchen.
Showing you it's been marked as states 11.
Yes, so this is just inside the door. To the right, there is the kitchen area.
Showing you states 14.
Yes.
What is this a photo of?
So this is the counter with the sink in the kitchen, and there's also the open area just above where you can see into the living room.
Showing you from States Composite, photo 19.
Yes.
What is this?
This is a hutch inside the kitchen. And see in the background, that is where that first photo of the kitchen was taken. So that's the entryway. And then this is the hutch, and there is a cell phone on the hutch in the kitchen.
Showing you stage 22.
This is the trash can in the kitchen. You can also see the hutch we were just looking at there on the side.
Stage 23.
This is the contents of the trash can. You can see 2 wine bottles on the top of the trash.
Did you also find receipts in that trash can as well?
Yes.
Photo 25 from the composite.
These are those same wine bottles and 3 Publix receipts that were removed from the trash can.
Did you take these items and collect them into evidence in this case?
Yes, I did.
Photo 32 from the composite.
Yes, this is just in further into that entryway. You can see the living room.
Photo 35 from the composite.
This is another photo of the living room. You can see the victim located on the floor and a suitcase in the bottom corner of the photograph.
Photo 36.
This is another photograph in the living room. This is that wall we saw in the kitchen there with the opening. You can also see a wooden baseball bat leaning against the wall.
Was that baseball bat collected into evidence in this case?
Yes, it was.
Photo 38.
This is, excuse me. This is also a photograph of the living room, just the other side of the room.
Photo 43 from the composite.
Yes. This photograph was taken in the living room. You can see the stairs leading to the second floor.
Photograph 45.
This is a photograph of the living room just from the other side of the room. You can see the front door in the middle back of the photo.
composite.
This is a more close-up photograph of the suitcase.
Photo 50.
This is a photograph of one of the zippers on the suitcase.
Photograph 51.
This is a close-up picture of that same zipper. There is no zipper pull on it. It appeared to be a small wire of some sort, the pink wrapped around the zipper. This is the zipper on the other side of the suitcase.
Just for the record, that's photograph 52. States 53 from this composite.
The close-up image of that same zipper. There is also no zipper pull on that one.
Photo 54 from the composite.
This is the contents of the suitcase after just lifting the lid.
Photo 56 from the composite.
More of a close-up image of the items. There were miscellaneous papers and paperwork, some clothing items, and apparent blood inside the suitcase.
What items, what apparent blood was inside the suitcase?
It was observed on the white cap and a necktie, and there was also visible blood just on the interior of the suitcase.
Photo 57 from the composite.
The contents of the suitcase, but you can see the white cap more clearly and the blood observed on it. You can see the necktie with blood. It appeared to be silver multicolored. And then there's also a diazepam syringe in the plastic casing there. It was prescribed to the victim.
Photo 61 from the composite.
That is the miscellaneous papers and paperwork that was removed from the suitcase.
Photo 62 from the composite.
That's the suitcase after all of the items were removed.
Photo 64 from the composite.
Yes, that is what appeared to be some like small pieces of paper that appeared to be soaked with blood.
Is this inside of the suitcase?
Yes.
Photo 65 from the composite.
That is the baseball bat that was leaning against the wall in the living room.
Photo 68 from the composite.
This is back to the stairs to the second floor in the living room.
photo 69 from the composites.
So it's moving closer to the stairs to the second floor.
Photo 70 from the composite.
Photographing more of the staircase. These are the steps leading to the second floor before I proceed up to the second floor.
This is photo 71 for the record. Photo 72 from the composite.
The upper portion of the stairs leading to the second floor.
How many bedrooms were on the second floor of the unit?
There were 2 bedrooms.
Photo 75 from the composite. What is this?
This is the hallway. You can see a closet in the hallway and then the door to one of the bedrooms.
Does this appear to be a child's room?
Yes, it did.
Photo 79 from the composite.
This is a photograph within the child's bedroom.
Photo 86 from the composite.
This is the door leading to the other bedroom upstairs.
Did this other bedroom also contain a bathroom?
Yes, it did.
Photo 90 from the composite.
This is the bed within that bedroom.
Photo 97 from the composite.
This is the bathroom.
In that master bedroom upstairs.
Yes.
Did you also have an occasion to photograph the defendant?
Yes, I did.
You see the defendant here in court today.
Yes, I do.
Could you please point to them and identify an article of clothing they're wearing?
She is right there with a black blazer and a pink shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant?
Record so reflect.
Showing you photo 98 from the composite.
This is the photograph I took of the defendant.
Why is it that you are photographing the defendant at this point?
I collected her buccal swabs, which is a DNA standard from the inside of the mouth, and it is part of our procedure to photograph that person for identification purposes.
Do you also document the rest of her body as well at that time?
Yes, I did.
Publishing Photograph 101 from State's Composite.
This is a photograph of her hands facing upward.
Photograph 102.
This is her right hand facing upward.
Photograph 103.
Her left hand facing upward.
Photograph 104.
Both of her hands facing downward, so the tops of her hands.
Photograph 105.
This is her right hand facing downward.
Photograph 106.
And her left hand facing downward.
Photograph 107.
This would be of her right arm.
Photograph 108.
Her left arm.
Photograph 109.
Her right arm with it facing upward.
Photograph 110.
Her left arm with her arm facing upward.
During the time you were interacting with the defendant, did she ever indicate to you that she had any injuries?
No.
You had previously testified that you also collected physical items of evidence from the home as well, in this case.
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness what's been marked for identification as State C and been shown to defense?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm assuming you was been marked for identification as State C. Can you take a look at that package for me?
Yes.
Do you recognize that package?
Yes, I do.
And tell us, what is that package?
These are the 2 wine bottles that were collected from the trash can.
Is your name on that package?
Yes, my name is on the Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence label that I filled out, and my initials are on the evidence seal from when I sealed the package.
And it also has your agency case number and the location information for this case.
Yes, that is correct.
Ma'am, could you open the contents of States C and look at it to yourself?
Yes. pull them out to recognize the item. They're wrapped in bubble wrap.
Sure, just how the view from the court. What is the contents of State C?
These are the 2 wine bottles that I collected from the trash can.
Are these wine bottles in the same or substantially the same condition as they were at the time that you packaged them on February 24th, 2020?
Yes, the same time I collected them that day.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as States C into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as State C will be received into evidence as States 9 without objection.
And Your Honor, request permission to publish.
You may do so.
You can unwrap them now. You can put them back. Did you also have occasion to collect the baseball bat from the living room?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness who's been previously marked for identification as States B and shown to defense?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as States B. Can you take a look at this item?
Yes.
Do you recognize this item?
Yes, I do. This is the wooden baseball bat I collected from the living room.
Does this item have your name on it?
Yes, it has my name on the Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence label that I filled out, as well as my initials on the evidence seal.
And it also has your initials and your agency case number as well.
Yes, it does.
Ma'am, can you open States B and look at the contents of it to yourself without displaying it to the court?
Yes.
what is contained within States B?
The wooden baseball bat.
And is that bat in the same or substantially the same condition as it was at the time that you collected it on February 24, 2020?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification as States B into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as B will be received into evidence as States 10 without objection.
Your Honor, request permission to publish.
You may.
You also had an occasion to collect a suitcase as well in this case.
Yes, I did.
Prior to placing the suitcase into evidence, did you process it?
I took measurements of the suitcase.
What are the measurements of the suitcase?
It was 28 inches in length, 20 inches wide, and 8 7/8 inches deep.
Your Honor, at this time, may the witness step down from the stand and approach the clerk's area.
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as States A. Tell me, do you recognize this item?
Yes, I do.
Tell us, what is this item?
This is the suitcase I collected from the living room.
And how is it that you know that this is the suitcase you collected from the living room?
It has the Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence label that I labeled with the item description. It also contains my name and the agency case number, and my initials are also on the evidence sheet.
Ma'am, at this time, could you open States A and look at the contents of it to yourself?
Yes.
What is inside of States A?
This is the suitcase I collected from the living room.
And does it appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as the time that you collected it and placed it into evidence?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's been marked for identification as States A into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as A will be received into evidence without objection as States 11.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask for permission to publish States A to the jury.
You may.
how easy is it to operate the zipper that closes the suitcase?
It was a little difficult.
I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Are you also referred to as a medical examiner investigator as opposed to just crime scene investigator?
No, that is not my title.
Do you do reports that the medical examiner necessarily relies upon in the process of doing the autopsy and additional investigations?
You would have to ask them.
Who makes the decision at the scene as to what items will be photographed and what items will be taken into custody, what items will necessarily be tested or analyzed?
That's a collaborative effort between the crime scene investigator and the lead detective while on scene.
That would be yourself, and who was the lead detective?
The lead detective was Chelsea Kepsel.
Okay. Now, you authored a report in this matter, did you not?
Yes.
And that report was utilized, if you in fact know, by the medical examiner in developing her autopsy report, was it not?
I do not know.
In your report, did you advise the medical, or whomever might read your report, that in fact the body had been removed from the suitcase by first offenders or first responders?
No, I don't believe so.
And we know that you have the capacity to do DNA analysis, correct?
No, we process DNA or collect swabs for DNA, and then that's submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for conventional DNA analysis.
You did that with a sample from the inside of Sarah Boone's mouth.
Her buccal swabs were submitted to the FDLE.
And who made that decision?
The detective and I.
Who made the decision not to bother to do a DNA analysis on the blood from the items within the suitcase or the suitcase itself?
That was a discussion between the detective and I.
And you showed.
Harper, do you recognize Sarah Boone at the defense table with Tony Henderson?
I do.
When did you first get involved with Miss Boone?
It would have been in around June of 2020. It was the first I heard of her case.
And what were you asked to do?
A comprehensive psychological evaluation of Ms. Boone.
And did you do that in Miss Boone's case?
I did.
Okay. Were you given materials to review?
I was.
Is that standard operating procedure?
Yes.
You assess the client individually, one-on-one, and then there are collateral evidence or material that you also consider?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that?
Yes. So in forensic work, there are a variety of documents that are usually available in assessing a defendant. In this case, for criminal court, you would see things like witness statements. There might be body cam footage or just more information about the offense itself. Sometimes there's an interrogation video. So you would get kind of the legal description of the offense and the things that have occurred. I also will often get educational records of a person, mental health records, hospital records, things of that nature that would describe their biopsychosocial history to me.
And you were given materials as it relates to Sarah Boone to review?
Yes, I have been.
How many times did you meet with Sarah Boone?
So 9 times.
All right. Can you tell the jury what you did as part of your evaluation of Sarah Boone?
Well, we had clinical forensic interview in which I reviewed her background history, so her early childhood. I also assessed her with assessments, meaning I administered 3 psychological tests to her. I reviewed her prior mental health records, her interrogation video, the some prior information about her legal history. So she had been previously arrested. I reviewed that as well. We had an opportunity to review the transcript of her interrogation video. So there were a variety of things that would be considered what I did with her.
Okay. So you considered some medical records?
Yes.
And did you also consider some records from Jorge Torres' records?
I did see his hospital records.
Now, do you consider, in doing an assessment and forming any opinions, an individual like Ms. Boone's upbringing in terms of where they grew up and what their family environment was like?
Yes, that's part of gathering their background history, so biopsychosocial information.
And did you consider Ms. Boone's upbringing in forming any opinions?
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so of her history, I found it pertinent that she was raised with...
Conduit 704.
Roach. The objection is sustained.
Would you have considered, as part of her family background, whether or not some of her family members had passed away early in her life?
Objection, pleading, Conduit 704.
Sustained.
You considered the entire family background and history without going into the details of what she said or what you learned from looking at records? I'm sorry?
Yes.
And did you consider her relationship with her mother as part of her psychological development?
Yes.
Now, do you believe that Sarah Boone does have some narcissistic traits?
I do.
She doesn't qualify or meet the criteria for that diagnosis, does she?
I did not diagnose her with that.
Can you elaborate on or explain how you feel that Sarah Boone does have some narcissistic traits?
Well, in meeting with her as part of the evaluation, the narcissistic traits that I identified would have to do with, as she described, being a straight-A student. She reiterated about her abilities, and I felt that that was evidence that she had low self-esteem, and her coping mechanism was to identify what made her stand out, and that would be consistent with a narcissistic trait.
Now, I know there's been reference in this case to a manual that all psychologists, all psychiatrists refer to. Do you have that manual with you?
I do.
And what is the name of that manual?
It is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the text revision. So it's the DSM-5 text revision.
Now, Dr. Brannon testified earlier today, and there was some evidence relating to when you suffer from narcissism, there's a sense of grandiosity. But is that, from this manual, in your studies and your experience, where they require excessive admiration and whatnot, that there's a reason for that.
If I'm understanding your question, there's a criterion in narcissistic personality disorder related to that.
What I'm getting to is many times you may have these narcissistic traits, but really you suffer from very low self-esteem.
That's the underpinning of that criterion.
Would you explain that to the viewer?
If I'm allowed to reference the DSM, then I can explain it best.
Just don't read from it. Just
All
if
right.
you need to review, if you need to read a paragraph and then explain it to the jury.
So based on the description in the DSM, if a person's self-esteem is very fragile and they have low self-esteem, they may require more outside admiration or even appear more grandiose in their abilities because at root they don't feel secure and confident. And so it's what we would call a defense. And so that criterion is actually a way that a person tries to make themselves feel better.
Anything else you want to say about that issue?
Well, you asked me about why I didn't diagnose narcissistic personality disorder. And again, from the DSM,
Are there criteria?
there are criterion for each disorder.
And so when you're assessing someone, they have to meet all those criteria for you to form that opinion that they actually suffer from that disorder?
Well, the first, I guess, issue is do they have the criterion that are listed? And then the second would be, is there a different mental health disorder that would better explain the criterion that you're seeing? The criterion within the DSM overlap considerably across disorders. And so there are some helpful guidelines within the DSM to remind you of that you may have what's called differential diagnosis. So if you're considering one thing, that you also are directed to look at other things. So that happened in this case, in this instance, that the DSM guided me to also look at other things.
But just for purposes, to make it clear, you did not diagnose her with narcissism, that disorder.
That's correct, because the DSM's description guided me that would not be an appropriate diagnosis.
Why did you not diagnose Ms. Boone with a personality disorder?
Well, first of all, it has to be a pervasive pattern of distorted relational abilities. So basically, if she is demonstrating in a variety of settings that she has these symptoms. And then secondarily, the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder is listed when you're considering personality disorders. The DSM guides you that if there are personality changes that are associated with the exposure to a trauma, then you should consider post-traumatic stress disorder and not a personality disorder.
Have you diagnosed her with anything? And we'll elaborate on that, but through your assessment, have you diagnosed her with anything?
Yes, so she has a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. She has symptoms of anxiety that would be consistent with post-traumatic stress disorder. So that is an anxiety disorder.
And you feel like she suffers from post-traumatic stress?
I do.
Now, at the time of this event, we're talking February 23rd of 2020, you were aware that she did not have much family support?
Yes.
Doctor, why do you administer psychological testing?
Psychological testing allows an objective measurement of what the person's symptoms may be as compared to sort of an average. So if we can see what the average range on a standardized measure would be for any person, if there is an interpretable difference, that gives me clinical information. So it's not just relying on what the person has told me. I've got an objective measurement that I can compare to other people. And then I also administer psychological testing in a forensic evaluation to help assist me in making sure that the person is intending to put in good effort with me. In some forensic settings, a person may have a reason to present symptoms, like if they're in a custody evaluation, for instance, they might have a reason to minimize symptoms, or they may exaggerate something else. And so assessments as to the person's response to you and if they're validly participating are important.
So there are tests to see if you're faking or malingering or that type thing?
Right, and so you would call it feigning mental health symptoms when the person is either far exaggerating a symptom they do have, or if they're pretending to have a symptom that they do not actually have.
Okay. Now, as it relates to Sarah Boone, what type of psychological testing did you administer?
I administered the inventory of legal knowledge, and that is a test that has to do with whether or not she was validly participating regarding her understanding of the legal process. I also administered the Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test.
Now, explain to the jury what that Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test is.
So that is also a test of feigning to identify if she's validly participating in the evaluation. So if she had endorsed psychological symptoms or psychiatric symptoms that would be unusual or not typical of a valid psychiatric patient.
What were the results of Ms. Boone's test on the Miller Forensic?
She validly participated. There was no indication of any feigning or malingering.
And as far as the inventory of legal knowledge case, what were the results?
Again, she was validly participating, and she did not even come close to the cutoff that would put her in the range of feigning.
Can you tell the jury what the purpose of the clinician-administered post-traumatic stress disorder scale is?
Yes. So that would be considered a very useful assessment of post-traumatic stress disorder. It allows me to interview a person about exposure to a traumatic incident and then identify if there's a change in behavior that has occurred as a result of that exposure to trauma.
At the time that you administered that test, did Ms. Boone in fact have post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well,
Or tell me the results.
yes. So the results would be consistent with a person having post-traumatic stress disorder. I do not diagnose from one test. That wouldn't be appropriate, but it is consistent with the background and the symptoms that I had previously, taken down during my evaluation of her. So the clinical portion, when we go through symptoms, that was consistent with the outcome of that test.
And would this testing, all the testing, help you determine if Ms. Boone had a change in functioning from before the alleged trauma
Bless you.
to after the alleged trauma? And I'm referring to the trauma. We're going to talk about what the trauma was, but the trauma was the intimate partner violence?
That's correct.
Okay. But would that testing help to determine if she had a change in functioning from that trauma of the intimate partner violence?
Absolutely.
And did you determine that she did suffer from trauma as a result of intimate partner violence?
That was my conclusion. Yes, that's my opinion.
Now, in considering all the available information, you don't just rely on what Ms. Boone tells you to make your decisions.
No, I don't. I do interview a person as part of the clinical forensic interview, of course, but I also consider things that are reported, like in their arrest narrative, witness statements, all of the medical records. So there are a variety of sources of information, collecting data points and reviewing those to arrive at a conclusion.
So you did review Ms. Boone's previous diagnoses in her history?
Yes,
Did you consider the previous diagnoses in arriving at your own?
I did. Yes.
What did Ms. Boone, what had she been diagnosed with prior to you getting involved?
Objection, 704 conduit.
Roach. The objection is sustained.
But you would agree, and I think this is a fair question, you would consider prior other experts who may have diagnosed her with something?
So I would definitely consider her mental health records, diagnoses previous clinicians may have arrived at the time
Okay.
when I diagnosed her myself.
Okay, and given the assessment that you did with Sarah Boone, and considering the totality and the time you spent with her and the other records, did you diagnose Sarah Boone with anything?
Yes, so post-traumatic stress disorder, it's my opinion at the time of the offense she had depression and she had an alcohol use disorder.
All right. I know we've talked about post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know if I need to ask you anything further. I think the jury probably understands that. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that disorder?
I'm not sure what the jury's already been told about post-traumatic stress disorder, but in Sarah Boone's case specifically, because of enduring, she specifically noted the time that she was stabbed with the knife as being an extremely...
Sustained.
You have viewed some exhibits involving her being stabbed?
I think that we have had exhibits in common. I'm not sure what was admitted.
Have you seen the physical scar from Sarah Boone being stabbed in the back of the leg?
Yes, I've seen her scar.
Overruled.
Just generally, without getting specific, I think I've explained post-traumatic stress, but if there's something else the jury you believe the jury needs to know, but it's a sort of trauma that occurs as a result of one or more events.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is the psychological after effect of being exposed to a very significant stressor or cumulative stressors that make the person's behavior, thinking, and mood change. And so the change can include things like the person becomes hypervigilant, is easily startled, has trouble thinking, has trouble sleeping, so their body is in a state of agitation. It can also include changes in mood that would include irritability, difficulty relating to others, and that they might be resistant to trust easily. So those are all features.
They have trouble sleeping sometimes.
Yes.
Sleep deprivation is a real issue.
It's associated with things like nightmares and having trouble settling.
Now, you mentioned that you had diagnosed her with depression. Can you just give us a general understanding for the jury of depression?
So the persistent sad mood, including feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, having difficulty concentrating, sleep problems, changes in appetite, those would be typical of depression.
And Sarah Boone suffered from that?
Near the time of the offense, yes.
All right, can you explain to the jury alcohol use disorder? That's a fairly new name. That's 5 or 6 years ago. The manual came up with a different name.
It did, right. And so that would be, in layman's terms, you might call that alcoholism. It's a tendency to drink too much and then have some kind of consequence in your life as a result of your substance use.
And alcoholism can be depending on how much you drink and then how often you drink.
That's right.
All that is something that you would consider in diagnosing?
Yes.
The many people who suffer from alcohol use disorder, I don't know how to put this, are they in denial?
I would say that is one of the stages of alcohol use disorder and amenability to treatment. So in denial, it's because you do not want to acknowledge that there are consequences from your use, because in doing that, you might have to reduce how much you're using. So to deny means that you feel that you can continue your use without having to change that. So you want to maintain the access to the substance.
You don't have a problem.
That's right.
What is the difference between traits and a diagnosis?
Well, we all have personalities, and so you're going to have coping mechanisms that include personality styles. So, for instance, even though you might not be diagnosable as something, there are times when if you're upset, hurt, frustrated, you have a mood state that's unpleasant, you're going to deal with that by using some kind of coping mechanism. So traits of personality disorders might be present in the way that you deal with inner pain, things that you don't like, feeling. So some people, for instance, if they feel uncomfortable, they may cling too much or become excessively bonded to try to escape a feeling that they don't like, and that might be a dependent personality trait. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have a personality disorder, because that would have to be pervasive across like all the environments. But when stressed or upset or not feeling good, you're going to use some kind of coping mechanism, and that might be one of the criterion, for instance, of the personality disorder. You would call that a trait.
And is it your understanding that this trauma that one suffers from repeat domestic violence can cause one to be considered suffering from the syndrome, we call it battered spouse or battered woman syndrome?
Yes, so the diagnosable condition would be PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. That's how a clinician would label the response to trauma. The pattern between partners, the person's coping mechanism because of that trauma, that would be what's considered battered spouse or battered partner syndrome.
And you're aware that that concept of being traumatized by the battered spouse syndrome or the post-traumatic stress is relevant to a self-defense case?
Yes.
In a criminal context?
Yes, I understand that.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, under the battered spouse syndrome, the person would experience a trauma or a situation in which they feared harm. And based on that fear of harm, they would react in a certain way that might not be understandable to other people. So their fear is based on the pattern of behavior between them and their partner. That might not be the case for another set of people.
Now, I know that Dr. Lenore Walker is the one who first uncovered this syndrome back in the 70s.
Her research study generated the term. She was interested in why battered women specifically at first, that was what was studied, didn't leave their partner because, of course, they're experiencing traumatic events, risks to their life, but then they didn't leave. So she undertook the original research study on that.
Just briefly touch on, because I know Dr. Brandon has this, there was a 3 stages that Dr. Walker developed for that syndrome.
I think you're referring to phases that a person may go through or the cycle of the relationship. That includes the tension building phase in which there is the first instance that tension is building within the partner. There might be a change in tone, a signaling that there's a difference in agitation. The second is the true battering event, so something has happened between the partners that's violent in nature. And then third, there's the honeymoon phase, which is to keep the relationship intact. The batterer would engage in what's like called honeymoon behaviors, like trying to repair the relationship, apologize, essentially keep the victim from departing from the relationship. So those are 3 phases.
And is it fair to say that psychologically the abuser, does alcohol often involved in the abuse?
Yes.
And as far as the victim that's getting abused, and you say it's a cycle, is the victim, when they go through that last stage, the honeymoon stage, are they thinking, okay, it's going to be better?
Yes, the hopefulness in that trying to believe that the behavior has changed, that they're not going to be abused again, the hopefulness to maintain the relationship, to forgive. That's part of that last stage, phase 3, is maintaining the relationship.
I don't think I've asked this. Why would someone who has been exposed to intimate partner violence perceive the likelihood of a new violent event about to appear? Why would they perceive the likelihood of that violence differently than, say, a normal person?
Well, it speaks to the pattern. So any relationship will have its own special pattern, that you have things that only your partner knows about you, or certain looks that you give that mean something, and you learn that over time. So over a period of incidents, basically, the victim begins to perceive cues that would signal impending danger. Those cues could be really subtle, just a change in tone, or some small behavior that might not mean much to another person, but it has preceded other violent acts. So, for instance, if your husband decides that he is not going out that night, he might put on different clothes to stay home, and that could be a signal, like abuse and violence has occurred in his stay-at-home clothes, for instance. That might not mean much to another person because, again, it's specific to that dyad. Those two people know those patterns. So the victim may perceive a small or subtle change in their partner as a cue because they've become hypervigilant. The body knows when it's experienced a threat to itself, and it will take note. We record memories differently when we're at risk. So these subtle cues become very well memorized by somebody who's being victimized.
Now, on this, and battered spouse syndrome is a subset of post-traumatic stress disorder, which you've diagnosed Sarah Boone with. When those personality changes occur and they persist after an individual has been exposed to this extreme stress, is that when the diagnosis occurs?
The changes would be as a result of the pattern. The person experiences a change, like in their sleeping, in their hypervigilance. That's when you can diagnose it. So you can have a trauma or an experience of a scary incident, but it doesn't mean that you will absolutely have post-traumatic stress disorder. You have to have those reactive symptoms that would suggest that it's present.
In your opinion, and I know you've gone over this event with Sarah Boone, this February 23rd, 2020 event, is your opinion that she was suffering from battered spouse syndrome at the time of that event?
Yes, she had the patterns ingrained in her behavior that would be typical of a victim who's responding to traumatic events in a predictable way. So that would fit that.
And it's fair to say that because of the intimate partner and the prior violence, that you would have a heightened sense of when danger was about to occur?
Yes.
When a threat was about to occur?
Yes.
A threat of danger?
That's right.
Now I want to talk about placating the abuser. A victim placating an abuser. Are there predictive cues which an abuser may exhibit to a victim that result in a high level of anxiety arousal, in which the battered woman may attempt to reduce through several different means to delay the beating? Can you explain that?
Yes. So the phase of the relationship that starts with that tension building, that is a jumping off point potentially. So if you can stop the escalation, you might stay in phase 1 for a period of time. Phase 1 being that tension building phase and trying to reduce it and not allow it to escalate. So placating the abuser might include distraction. It could include substance use. It could include a change of scenery. There are a lot of things that a partner will learn to do so that they don't have the escalation into an abusive event, if possible. doesn't always stop it.
Now, in reviewing all of the data, all the reports, medical records, and whatever reports you considered, videotape that you may have watched, as it relates specifically to Sarah Boone, are her words her power?
Her words, I would say, are the weapon that she has.
Explain that to the jury.
In reviewing the available videos that I had to review, you would see that when Ms. Boone is very stressed, when she's experiencing a high level of anxiety, she becomes short in her tone. You can hear that in her voice. There's a strain, sharper words come out. I think that that is the way that she would try to respond to Mr. Torres. You can hear that sharpness in her voice when she's very stressed out.
Now, would you agree that victims may exhibit a range of behaviors when they're suffering from intimate partner violence?
Yes.
Self-isolation?
Yes.
Suicidal thoughts?
Yes.
Substance abuse?
Yes.
And there are often physical signs of injury such as bruising?
That's correct.
Chronic fatigue?
Yes.
Learned helplessness?
Yes.
Can you tell I know Dr. Brandon spoke on it, but could you tell us a little bit about that?
So learned helplessness is when you start to form the opinion that nothing's going to make any difference. It comes originally from an animal study in which dogs were shocked, and the research study indicated that even when dogs were given an opportunity to escape the environment in which they were being shocked, if they were shocked enough, they just stopped trying to escape. So even though they had an opportunity to do so, they did not do that. That's called learned helplessness. It's the idea or belief that what your actions are going to do are not going to make a difference, so don't try.
What are intrusive memories?
Intrusive memories are an element of post-traumatic stress disorder in which you don't want to be thinking of a traumatic event, but it intrudes on something else you're trying to do. Like maybe you're folding socks or something like that, just doing something mindless, and that's what takes over your thought process. It's not something that you're trying to think about. We could plan what we're thinking about, or sometimes if you're just having this intrusive experience, that's not what you were intending to think about at all.
Is that one of the conditions that someone may suffer when they have this syndrome of battered spouse?
Yes.
I know there can be triggers that bring on these memories. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Are there also symptoms of this syndrome where, like in the alcoholism, where you have denial that you're in the middle of this cycle?
Well, as part of the relationship, there's an element of pleasure. Like you have early on in the relationship something that binds you together. So you're remembering that, you're hoping for that, even though the repeated cycle is going through the phases 1, 2, and 3, you keep hoping for elements of that honeymoon phase, wishing that it was better. So it is like denial. You're imagining the way it used to be. You have a recollection of that person showing you positive behaviors, and you're hoping for that. I also think it is typical for victims to not reveal to other people that the abuse is going on, and it seems like denial. In other words, your coworkers ask you, like, are you okay? Did something happen to you? You're not likely to disclose that. That looks a lot like denial. It is a denial in public of some of the private issues that you're having in your relationship, and that's because it's embarrassing. It's revealing a loss of control to other people. It's revealing that things aren't perfect. You might even get feedback that you should leave your partner, and that's unwanted because you're already having that, concern in your own mind about it. And so, it seems like denial on the outside. to hide it.
Would you agree many people who suffer from this, they're minimizing what is happening to them,
Yes.
and they're numbing their emotions to it?
Well, to stay present and keep that relationship, it's very difficult for a lot of people because they're experiencing physical and emotional harm. So they want to numb it because numbing it means that you can keep that relatedness no matter how bad it's getting.
Do some people with this syndrome disassociate?
Relevance.
Do you agree that battered women often develop the defense mechanism of being able to psychologically detach from their body during a traumatic experience?
Some people do experience that.
Raise your right hand to be sworn. Please be swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, full truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Sir, you may be seated. After you're seated, if you can state and spell your name for the record for us.
Vincent Battaglia, Vincent Battaglia.
Thank you. Sir, you may inquire.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell us what it is you do for a living?
Right now I work for an auto parts company,
And where do you live?
New Jersey.
Back on February of 2020, where were you living at that time?
I was living at the Tealwood Apartments in Winter Park, Florida.
And what were you doing at that time when you were living at Tealwood?
I was enrolled in Full Sail University. I was in school.
When you were living at Tealwood, did you have any roommates?
Yeah, I had one roommate, Brandon. Yeah, that was it. Them.
That's Brandon Motes?
Yes.
Did you have neighbors?
Yeah.
Were you neighbors with Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres?
Yes.
And approximately how long were you neighbors with them?
About a year, a little over a year. I moved there in January 2019.
And during the course of that year that you were neighbors with them, did you have occasion to interact with them at times?
Yeah.
In fact, did you ever go over to their home?
Yeah, like a couple times, yeah.
And I believe you tuned a guitar for a child there at the house?
Yeah.
This Tealwood apartment complex, how would you describe the walls that separated your units?
Thin, like very thin walls.
And with those walls being so thin, would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling coming from Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres' apartment?
Yeah.
How often would you hear this?
Almost daily.
Did Sarah Boone ever approach you about the things that you heard coming from their apartment?
Yes.
And where were you when she approached you?
I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio.
And approximately what time
It was
this?
pretty late. I can't remember the exact time, but it was definitely anywhere between like midnight to 2 a.m., like right around there.
And do you remember how much before the date when the police called that this occurred?
A few months, like probably 4 to 5 months before that.
So 4 or 5 months before February of
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And when she approached you on this late evening / early morning on that day, what did she tell you?
Pretty much just kind of like, if I do hear anything, like through the walls or whatever is out back, just kind of keep my mouth shut. Like, don't really speak about it or anything like that or say anything to anyone. And I just was like, okay.
Did she make any motions with her hands?
Yeah, like just kind of like, you know, finger over the lips, like kind of shh, like keep it hush, like that kind of thing.
So she told you not to report anything you may have heard about arguments or yelling or fighting, anything going on over there.
Yeah.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
I do, yeah.
And what about that evening sticks out to you?
That sticks out to me from that night was literally just there was a very, very loud noise that I heard that was loud and powerful enough to shake my bedroom wall. And I remember that because I was sitting on my bed on FaceTime with my girlfriend at the time, and I literally felt the wall shake, and it stopped me mid-conversation. And she even asked me through the computer, like, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea.
Did you hear any yelling coming from their apartment on that night?
Before that, yeah, like it was just arguing kind of stuff.
What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was like the loud noise and just a little bit of shuffling, and that was kind of it. It just kind of went silent after that.
Could you hear anything that was being said?
Not clearly, and it was never really anything clear. It was just like you could hear arguing back and forth, just kind of like an I hate you, like it's whatever it is, whatever the argument was about kind of thing. At the time, that's really all it was, but it was never really clear enough to hear like the full argument. And honestly, I never really paid attention too much to it. If I heard it, I kind of stepped into my living room to be further away from it.
Did you hear both the defendant's voice and also Jorge Torres' voice?
Yeah, all the time. It was like a back and forth. Yeah.
So other than the statements and the phrases of I hate you, you weren't able to discern the contents of this argument?
No.
What was the last sound you heard?
The last sound that I heard was like the loud banging noise that it was like a very odd sounding noise that I've never heard before this day, but it very much sounded like it was where my bed was positioned. It was kind of towards the back of the apartment, and it almost sounded like it was coming towards me, but like on the side of me, then it was just like a loud rumbling noise, like that literally sounded like it was kind of far away from me, and then it like ended up like almost next to me. And like I said, the walls are thin, so like it's very easy to hear like through the walls, and not even just sideways. Like I hear my upstairs neighbor, like all around, very thin walls.
Now, was your bedroom, where was it located in your apartment?
The back of the apartment, so it was like there's like a little kick out next to my patio, and that was my bedroom back there, like along the grass back there.
On the first floor?
On the first floor, yeah.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Any cross-examination?
Mr. Cagley, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you said that you lived there next to Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres for about a year?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the police were called to their residence?
Like,
while you were there for the year, are you aware of any incident in which the police were called to their residence?
I had never seen anybody there, but I had had other neighbors in the complex tell me that it has been on multiple occasions. So that's why.
Just instead of what somebody else told you.
Yeah.
Just what you would observe. Did you ever, the year that you were there, living next to them?
Yeah.
Were you ever aware that the police were called to their residence?
No, the times that I was home, I never saw any police at the apartment there.
Right. And did you work odd hours or?
Yeah, and with my schooling and stuff too, I used to have class at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So all the time I was at random moments, like just not home throughout the day and night and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not, based on your interaction with Sarah Boone?
I'm going to object.
Let me finish the question first, please.
Do you know from your experience with Sarah Boone and your experience with Jorge Torres, that they drank alcohol?
Yeah.
Hang on.
I'll withdraw to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Are you aware that they both consumed alcohol to excess?
Yes.
Thank you. Hold on.
Yes, sir, of course.
Well, Vincent, I think you had testified, you may have given a statement to law enforcement,
Yes, it was one of the detectives.
a recorded statement?
Yes, I can't remember his name, but yes.
Okay, and I think it was on February 23rd of 2020.
Yeah, right around that time, yeah.
I believe you had said that,
I'm going to object this to improper impeachment.
Approach. Objection's overruled for now.
sir, would it be fair to say on that date you got home around 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.?
Yes.
Which day was this?
Sunday, February 23rd, 2020.
No, that day I actually got home from work probably around 1 or 2 o'clock or so.
In the morning?
No, in the afternoon. Because I went to work that morning at around 5 a.m.
And you said that you heard the normal yelling and arguing at about that time when you got home?
No, it was around that time, but it was really around like 10 o'clock, 10:30 is when like the arguing I could really hear clearly. It was like around 10:30 at night.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Just very briefly.
Yes, sir.
So on cross-examination, you were asked about the arguing you heard, and I believe your testimony was that it was pretty intense around 10:30.
Yeah.
Approximately what time was it that you heard this loud crashing thump sound that you described?
Little after that.
Overruled.
It was a little after that arguing and stuff. It was probably around 11:15, probably 30, 45 minutes after like the arguing I could hear started.
No other questions?
Can this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not subject to recall.
We would like him subject to recall. You've got his number.
Okay.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes. Thank you, sir. You can be seated. State and spell your name for the record for us.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Moats, BRANDON MOATS.
Thank you. Mr. Cacciatore, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you knew Sarah Boone?
I moved into the apartment next door to her when I was in college.
And so, when was that you were in college?
I would have moved down here in 2019 and would have been there until like 2021, 2022.
So she was your neighbor at Tealwood Apartments, is that correct?
Yeah, it would have been Tealwood back then, yeah.
And did you have any roommates back then?
Yes, I was rooming with Vincent Battaglia.
And during that time, what were you doing?
Like,
as far as work and school? And
I was just going to school. During the time of this, yeah, I would have just been going to school. I don't think I would have had my job yet. I was just a student.
Did you have much interaction with the defendant or with Jorge Torres in this case?
Honestly, I avoided them as much as possible usually.
The apartment where you lived, tell us, how would you describe the walls that separated
So,
the units?
yeah, I remember that my bedroom was like the front-facing bedroom, and our walls shared a wall with where their staircase was. So, like, the way the apartments were laid out, we had a one-story apartment, they had a two-story apartment. So they had a staircase running right next to the walls, next to, like, our bedrooms.
Would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling going on inside of the defendant's apartment?
Yes, the walls were pretty thin, so if people were yelling, you could definitely hear it.
And how often would you hear arguments or disagreements going on over there?
When I first moved in, it was it was at least like once a week, to the point that I started tuning them out. Like I got good enough at just like not listening to them. They argued very, very often.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, could you hear arguing going on in their unit?
Not late into the evening, earlier into the evening, probably like 7, 8 o'clock that evening, probably. Like earlier on, I could hear arguing.
And where were you inside of your apartment?
I would have been in my bedroom pretty much all night.
And your bedroom, just so that we can paint the picture, where would that would that have been, on the first floor or the second floor?
We had a first floor apartment.
Okay, so all the units were, or all the bedrooms were on the first floor.
Yeah, like I was saying before, we had a one-story apartment, and then they next door had like a two-story townhouse, so we only had the one floor.
Understood. And at a certain point in the evening, did you hear a loud crashing sound?
Yeah, probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock that evening.
And can you describe that sound for us in more detail?
I mean, yeah, at literally, like I said, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's the way their staircase was set up. I could, my bedroom, the top of their staircase would have been like above my ceiling, and then it ends next to where like my roommate's apartment was. So I could hear something start above me super loud and then fall away from me like it was falling down the stairs.
Did this affect the walls that were between your two apartments?
Oh yeah, me and my roommate, I remember me and my roommate talking the next day about like we could literally, like, it shook both of our rooms.
Did you ever have occasion to talk with the defendant about what happened?
I never saw her after that. She would have, I never saw her after that happened.
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you were asked by the state if you had ever had any interactions with Sarah Boone or Jorge Torres. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think you said you tried to avoid them.
Yeah, I don't like drunk people, and they were drunk a lot, so I did not interact with them.
Okay. Do you remember this interaction with Sarah Boone in 2009 when you woke up and witnessed Sarah sleeping?
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Good catch. In 2019, when you woke up and witnessed Sarah sleeping, on the concrete patio?
Oh, this may have been a slight misconception in how I said this. I never woke up and saw her sitting on the patio myself. That I would have seen her on the patio eventually, but it's not like I woke up and went back and saw her on the patio. This was my roommate relaying the story that she had fallen asleep on the back patio, and then I saw her.
Okay, so you did not witness that yourself, or did you see her?
I saw her asleep on the back patio. I was just clearing up the sequence of events there.
Okay, thank you. Another time, do you recall our interaction with Miss Boone when you were coming home from school and she was trying to talk to you and she seemed paranoid and rambling? And
Yeah, I had gotten locked out of my apartment, so I was waiting on the steps waiting on the steps outside of my apartment for my roommate to get home. So she came up and started talking to me. I don't really remember too many details of what she was saying, because I didn't want to talk to her. But yeah.
Okay. Do you remember saying that you believe Sarah was avoiding going into her apartment?
That's definitely the vibe. I don't remember what she was saying, but the vibe she was giving off was that she didn't want to go home.
Now I believe, and I just want to make sure that I heard you, you said that the first arguments, other than the boom, which was 10-something, initially it was around 7 p.m. You heard arguing?
It would have, yeah, because it would have been. I remember that day I got home from class around 5, because I got out of class around 4:30 usually and walked home, so I would have gotten home around 5:30, and it would have been after because I came home, I made myself lunch, and I took a shower, and then I heard all of their arguing, so it would have been about an hour and a half, 2 hours after I got home, so around 7 to 8 o'clock.
Okay. And during that time, when you say arguing, was it back and forth?
I honestly, I wouldn't really be able to say if it was back and forth. I don't know I wouldn't remember too vividly if it was back and forth. Or if it was
Let me
just
ask you
one
this,
person
did you
yelling.
hear a male voice?
Yes, I heard a male voice.
Did you hear a female voice?
Yes.
Okay, were they both loud?
Yes.
Okay. If I can confirm, Judge.
Yes, sir, of course.